If you were to describe 2022 in one word, what would it be? To be honest, that's extremely hard, especially with how much happens within a year for everyone. But to be cliche for me, it would be change. Reflecting on the year, early was the year where I pushed myself out of a state of living which I perceived to be comfortable. I challenged myself to work on areas in my life for which for too long I neglected, because it was more comfortable to just let it get worse rather than coming to terms with it and working on it. It was a year so many changes lied ahead, from transitioning to postgrad to a new job. Change can happen in many different ways and forms, but no matter what changes may have occurred, it's never going to be easy, because it causes us to readjust ways of living we ingrain into ourselves as the best. It brings joys of new beginnings and achievements we didn't even know we could achieve. On the polar opposite, it brings all the discomfort that comes attached. Society teaches us to go against living in discomfort. It's interesting how it conforms us to believe that change is bad, that it would be the better for us just to stick to the old way of living. But with no change, we're always going to be stagnant at the same point. If you could look back to yourself a year ago and reflect on how much change that happened, how much would you be able to list? Changes are bound to happen, from ones caused by environmental factors that we can't control, to changes in our own selves, which we have the decisions to make. But what matters is how we react to them. Do we just let them be? Or do we actually seek to live in discomfort in hopes it will all work out in the end? If you were to ask yourself each time you made a decision what's stopping you, what would your answer be? 2022 made me realize most times the only obstacles in the way of many of my decisions was myself. Yeah, there may be financial or environmental limitations, but ultimately in the end, most times it was just due to fear and over-worry. 16-year-old Shua would be internally screaming 22-year-old self was able to get tattoos and even bungee jump. Things she only dreamed of doing because she was too scared to do them back then. It's up to you to change the way you view obstacles. Change isn't ever going to be easy, especially in terms of relationships and friendships in life. They play such a big part in our lives growing up as well. We like to stay with people that we feel comfortable with or may have known for a long time, even if we're not the best versions of ourselves when we're with them. But that's where change was one of the hardest for me. For so long, I thought the way I maintained friendships was the best. The way I just let myself be the friend who just agreed with everything, or the way we let ourselves to be who they want as a friend or significant other, so that we wouldn't have to deal with the loss of any relationships. Yeah, really made me reflect on people we surround ourselves with, as I had to come into terms with loss of relationships in life. People can come and go, but truly the only person that'll be with you to the very end is yourself. That when people do you dirty, the last person to blame is yourself, knowing that truly you did nothing wrong. It was the year I realized I don't have the responsibility nor owe it to anyone to try and maintain a constant relationship with every single person, and that cutting loose threads in my life was the discomfort I needed to see. Maybe that ties in with becoming more content with yourself and not needing others to feel validation, not needing the presence of others to feel okay. Changing yourself into the best version is never selfish. Don't ever let anyone say that. 2022 was the year I worked on becoming in love with myself, getting validation from my own self. At first, it was uncomfortable. For so many years, I was so accustomed to naturally judge every single bit about me and being my worst critic. But reflecting on this year, I was able to learn that the way I view myself shouldn't be dependent on the way others perceive me. That the only person who has a right to say what you should do and look like is yourself, although in a positive, affirmative way. Although the journey to falling in love with yourself will never be easy, because we live in a society where comparison is the thief of joy, and it's so easy to compare everything from our looks to our lives to even someone next to us. But I hope you remember you are so beautiful within. 2022 alone, there was a fair share of health troubles that put me into a mental state so low, I wouldn't wish anyone to be in that state. But being able to come into terms with the fact that my eczema or any health conditions doesn't define who I am, although this was very hard to come to this point, It really allowed me to be free from the chains that locked my brain into thinking my worth is determined by my looks or any health conditions I may have. Life can get so busy at times that we would rather just continue living in the same routine. We would rather be familiar than deal with all the unknown that comes with change. But remember, no matter how hard change may be, it helps us to become the best version possible. So take a step back and reflect. What would you change about 2022? What are the discomforts you're willing to seek in 2023? 2022 may have not been a great year, or it may have been one of the best. But no matter all that unfolded, I hope you always remember that a year ago you would be super proud of present you, even alone in the fact that you've made it till now. Joke by myself.